Alright, so we finished off the last lesson just having modeled this shampoo bottle based on this reference image. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create the material for this to make it look as close to this as possible. Um, let's just take a look at this first, and I suspect that the YouTube compression algorithm for the videos won't show all the details here, but in my image here, you can see there's a slight sort of brushed metal effect on it, and that's what we're going to try and recreate. Okay, so let's take a look here. First thing we do is bring up our material editor, and this time, last time we used the material editor, we were in this mode here. You can see we've got the mode switch here. This time I'm going to go to slate. Okay, and I'm going to bring out a physical material, and I'm just going to click and apply it to it. I'm going to just find a color just from this, something like, I don't know, that will do as a starting point. And so that goes in our base color here. Okay. So I've downloaded a few textures here. Let's just take a look at them. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Brushed metal. Yeah, this one. Brushed metal. It's basically a texture that we're going to use to basically scratch the surface of the metal. We're not going to use this to color the metal at all. This is just going to be like a surface texture effect. Okay. And the other one I got here, which we may use, is this one here. This is just what's called a UV checker, and it's just something we apply to an object to check out how the textures are lying on an object. Okay, and then we apply the texture we want, because sometimes the texture that we want is so subtle, or the detail is so fine that the viewport won't actually pick it up, whereas this we can see it nice and clearly. So I'll show you how that works. Okay, so we've got this texture on here. I'm going to create a new map, general bitmap. So this is just exactly the same bitmap as we used in the other lessons, only we're getting to it from this menu here. Okay, so it's going to ask me for a bitmap. I'm going to choose that one. But I'm also going to duplicate this just by holding shift and just dragging it down like that. Now we've got two of them. And this other one, I'm going to hit the little bitmap file selector here, and I'm going to choose my brushed metal, so we can just have both of them here. So I'll just plug this into color and let you see what it's like. Okay, so if we take a look around, you can see the textures lying on it quite nicely. But we're going to run into a problem with the other texture. And let me show you what that is. So let's just plug that in here. It's really hard to see in the viewport. Yeah, here. Our brushed metal has given us circles at the top, but it's really hard to see here. I suspect the top of that isn't brushed in circles, it's brushed in lines, but we don't really know that because we can't see from the reference. But anyway, we're going to use a map or a texture in between the image and the material. Okay, and that's called, if we just go to the little search bar here and type in tri, it's called triplanar. Okay, tri meaning 3, planar meaning flat. So basically what this does, it takes, it projects the texture from the top and two sides, so and it blends between them. And let's just put that in the base color. The problem with it is that we can't see its effect in the viewport, I don't think. No, it's not going to show us. So let's just render that and see what we get. We get this, which is obviously not what we want. Okay, so I had this plugged into here just to let you sort of see this a bit easier. So I'm just going to disconnect that. Where we actually want this is in here, into the bump map slot, because we want this texture to basically scratch the surface of the bottle. Let's render this now, and it doesn't look that great. Okay, a few settings we have to go over here. One, the scale is too big, so having tested this earlier, it was either 0.2 or 0.02. Let's turn the metalness up. Let's start to give it some metalness. Okay, so there's the problem now. Once we turn the metalness up, we don't see anything. Okay, something like this with a metallic look to it needs an environment around it to reflect, because most of the color and surface detail is coming from light that's reflected off its surface. Okay, it's a bit like a mirror in a dark room. You don't see anything. Okay, so what we'll do is, same as we did before, we'll come to rendering and environment, and we'll choose bitmap, and we'll take the same wrestling gym image that we had and just click open and click OK and hit render again. Just give it for a wee minute to load, and we're starting to see something a little bit more metallic now. Let's just come in this a little bit closer. Okay, so let's just render that now. So it does look a bit like metal. It's very noisy. Few settings to work on here. Let's see. I think what I'm doing is trying to rotate the texture to find out which way it's lying. And I'm going to turn the quality up a bit because it's so noisy I can't actually tell which way texture is lying. So let's turn that up to 6. We'll also come in here and turn this bucket size down to 32 so it renders the little buckets faster, and I don't need to see the whole scene, so I'm just going to render a portion so that our iterations go a lot faster. Okay, I think I'm starting to see lines in there now. Let's bump that up a bit more. Let's see if we're seeing them. Starting to see little scratches appear there. The other thing we need to do is to come down to here to this what's called anisotropy. Okay, and what that basically is, it stretches the highlights in one direction. Okay, let's put it to about 0.5 and render. Now, also we'll need to turn the roughness up a little. Let's say 0.5 there as well. So this is what kind of, when you're developing the look of something, this is how it goes. You're just tweaking values to see what works and what doesn't. Okay, until you've enough experience to know exactly what you're doing. Starting to get there. I'm going to try and take this texture map up a bit. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Let's see. Let's try 1, 1, 1. So I had to pause there for a minute because I had forgotten some of the settings that I had used, because obviously before I do this tutorial I build it first and then I run you through it. So what had happened there was that our scale was wrong. So I'm taking the scale size down here. Let's say 0.05 in all three of these. 0.05, 0.05. Now, this is a little bit counterintuitive, this scale, because the smaller the scale goes, the bigger the image on the object. Okay, it works opposite to the way you would normally think it works. Okay, and you can start to see those scratches now. But you'll also see we've got, if I zoom in here, we've got this line here, and this is where the texture is getting projected from one side and the other side, and this is where it meets. But we can blend that like this, just using this little blend function. That should get rid of it. There we go, it's gone now. So let's adjust this scene just a little bit. Let's come right out to something like this, and this is our region for our render here. You can adjust it in the viewport as well as in the render view. So now we're getting quite close to a nice brush metal finish here. I still think compared to this, I think it needs to be a little bit, I think it needs a little bit more roughness. So let's come back to our material here, and remember it's this roughness here, not this one. Let's do 0.35, and I'll clone this and just let you see the difference. Okay, render. So the highlights will be a little bit less defined. Getting there now. We're never going to get it to look exactly like this, because to get it to look exactly like that, we would need to recreate the environment that it's in, and since we can only see what's on that side, we don't know what's actually, well, it would be behind me, what's causing these highlights. So we're just going for a best look we can here. Okay, now I'm going to turn off this edit region here because we have a little bit more modeling to do here first. So I'll just close this stuff down. I'm going to show you how to make a quick backdrop. Okay, so you can see as we can look around, see our environment here. It's all around. Okay, Z on the keyboard will zoom you into what you've got selected, or if you have nothing selected, it'll zoom you into your scene. So I'm just going to go to a front view here, and I'm going to get my line tool. Now there's several ways you can do this, but let's just show you this way. So I'm going to click and hold shift and come to about here, and then come up the side to about there. And what I've done there is just create a line that runs like this. I'm going to go file, whoops, file, extrude, and I'm going to extrude this out to something like that. And let's just switch to perspective mode and Z again. Okay, now this is going to be a backdrop for our bottle. Okay, just going to hit F4 to bring up our edged faces. I'm going to need a load of segments here, so I'm just going to give it like 100 segments. Okay, and then I'm going to, no, not camera map it, I'm going to bend it 90 degrees roughly, something like that. Okay, so now we've got a kind of backdrop for our ball to sit in, but what I don't want is this sharp angle on the backdrop. First thing I'll do here is we'll give this another material. So I'm going to create a new physical material here, and I'm just going to make it white, but not full white. Our roughness is, I'm going to turn our roughness up quite a bit. Let's say about there. Right, we've got that selected, so we've got our material selected, so I'm going to hit the assign material to selection button and switch back to perspective. Let's find a shot. So let's render this. Just let's see what it looks like. Now, one problem we're going to run into here is render times, because when we're only rendering the color of the environment, it's really quick. But when we've got geometry covering the whole of the viewport like there is here, it's going to slow down a lot. So let's just cancel that and come to our common settings here, and let's just go 1024 by 576. Okay, and let's take our samples down, say about 5. Okay, so it should be a little bit faster. So you can see your white material is now picking up a lot of the color from around the environment. Okay, but this is what I wanted to avoid here, was this dark line here. Some nice shadows starting to appear here, but I'll wait till this finishes and then I'll clone it. We'll tweak the geometry of the backdrop and then we'll render it again. So clone the window. Let's just close these. I'll just leave that open. So this is the beauty of doing this line modeling. So I just have to come down to the line here. I'll turn this on so you can see it in real time. I'm going to select that vertex. I'm going to go fill it. Give it some curve, just like that. Back up to bend. Now, another problem we're going to run into here is I didn't set up a camera. So I'm not going to be able to get back to exactly that render there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is try and get it roughly, say something like that. Then I'm going to set up a camera using Control C, and that creates a camera based on our view. You can see up here now, it says physical camera. I'm not going to touch any of this at all. I'm just going to bring up my material editor, our frame, and let's just hit render, and let's see now. And now you'll see that instead of having this line, which you might like, it's very subjective, this, you know, I prefer this kind of softer look here. We could actually take that material up a little brighter now as well, and also I forgot to add the material to the nozzle here, so let's just cancel that and select our nozzle, select our material, hit assign to selection. So this is our metal material here. I'm going to select this one and I'm going to brighten this color up to nearly white but not quite, and let's hit render again. And now we're starting to get somewhere now. Oh, you can see the edge of the backdrop down here, but down this bottom left hand corner, but let's not worry about it too much. What I'm going to do in a wee second is maybe just frame this a little bit better, and then I'm going to do a high-res, high-quality render, but I will pause the video recording while I do that. So for you it'll take milliseconds, for me it'll probably take half an hour. So there's the two renders there, one with the smooth backdrop, one with the hard-edged backdrop. Okay, you can see the way the shadows are starting to sweep up here. Okay, looks quite good. So let's just close all this crap a minute and adjust our camera, just dolly it in slightly. I might just take it over to this side here a little, because the bottle's actually sort of facing this way, the nozzle is this way, and you always should have some facing room. Okay, if something's facing to the right, frame it to the left. Or sorry, not facing room, looking room it's called. Okay, um, again here we're starting to see that, so let's just, we can also just move our model, say there. Okay, let's bring up our material editor and our render settings. So this time I'm going to bump that up to 10, which is the max, right? Normally you would never do this, but you would actually tweak these values here, but because we're still looking at this from a basic perspective, we're not going to get into what all these settings in here and all this is. Okay, let's bump this up to say 1920 by 1080, which is sort of full frame HD. Okay, 1080p that would be called. Okay, so I'm going to hit render and then I'm going to hit pause on the video, so we'll just watch it this a few buckets just to see how it gets on. Okay, so this is just the preview phase, which went really fast last time, but you'll notice now my buckets are just stuck. Okay, they're quite slow, so I'm just going to pause this and get back to you when it's done. Okay, so the render's nearly finished. Let's see how long it's taken. It'll tell us at the end actually. So that looks quite good. You can see my buckets are still going here. You can maybe hear my CPU fan trying to explode. We get some nice highlights here. I think the whole scene could do with being a little bit brighter than that, but I'm not going to dwell on that too much. We've got some nice highlights. We've got our brushed metal finish. If I zoom in, you can see it a little bit clearer. Okay. We've got the color. Let's just get our image file again because I closed it. It's similar. It's not exactly the same, but as I said, you'll never get it exactly the same as in a photograph. If indeed that is a photograph, it could be a render. But that looks quite good. Some really nice soft shadows here. We've got some nice darkness under it. We've got some nice shading here. And we've got some nice highlights on these sharp corners. Okay, so just to recap, what we did here was we started off with our model. We created the metallic brushed metal finish for it using a triplanar map, and a bitmap fed into that, and the triplanar map goes into the bump map. Okay, we adjusted the color, we made a backdrop and gave it a white color. We softened the corner on the backdrop, and we did a little bit of tweaking with the render settings and a lot of tweaking with the material. But typically excuse me, you know, we've spent maximum half an hour doing this. I would probably, if I was doing this for a real product shop, I would probably spend on a good hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, just tweaking the look of the material here. So it can be a long process, but that's the nature of 3D. So that's it for this lesson. Thank you.